So
Hi,
good
Tatiana.
to you today for this conversation about intensity. And let me tell a couple words of what I know about you. You're a powerful leader who succeeded and went to the top of your industry as a business leader, as a founder, co-founder of very successful business Origins Living. And I'm really excited to have you here with me. So would you like to add a couple more words about who you are?
Yes. Thank you for inviting me, Tatiana. It's very exciting. So I co-founded Origins Living with my husband almost 30 years ago, and it has been a tumultuous journey full of ups and downs. I wouldn't have it any other way, and I've absolutely loved the journey. It's been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of trauma, and I'm here at 54 years old with Tatiana to talk about my experiences and offer advice to those coming up the ranks.
Yes, and I know you can inspire, and you already do. You inspire many young leaders, many young entrepreneurs. And I'm curious, what does intensity mean for you?
It means being authentic, a word I learned from Adaptaa, being authentic, audacious, being direct, setting an intention, and being direct to the people I deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yes, authenticity and awareness, it's really definitely very important part. I'm wondering, how did you experience intensity in your industry? What it is like to be a female leader, as I understand, in quite man-dominating industry?
It's tough. It's tough, and I've had to knock walls down, which is probably one of the reasons like I haven't risen up the ranks, because I created my own business, and being in a male dominated industry has been difficult, and my intensity has been perceived years ago was perceived in a negative way. She's bossy, she's feisty, she's fiery. Those are how I've been described, how I was described. Things are changing now. I still get described as feisty and fiery, but I think now it's understood that there is a lot more women in our industry, and accepting to be direct, to set your intention. This is what I want, and I will do it in a very authentic and transparent way. There's still a long way to go in our industry, definitely.
Yeah, you're raising a very important point, because I also worked in a very man-dominated industry in banking, and I definitely noticed that women sometimes are called intense in a more negative way, more easier, easier than men are. So where a woman might be labeled as aggressively intense, where man
Yes.
is passionate, and that's what inspired me to think actually intensity is not good and bad or bad. It's a certain energy, it's a presence
Yes.
of a certain power, really. So how have you dealt with that, with this perception that sometimes the way when you're being authentic, being yourself, and it's perceived in a different way? So
I think now I've developed the confidence, and I trust myself, so I don't have as much self-doubt as I did before. So being intense in a healthy way is about, what is it that I want to get out of this interaction? If I know what I want out of this interaction, and I set the intention from the beginning, this is what I want. For example, I want to do business with an organization. So I will say from the start, this is what I want, and I will do it in a healthy, intense way. I won't give up, but I will do it in such a way that they know what it is that I want. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm not, trying to be cutesy about it. This is what I want, and this is my intensity. And as long as I know that I am being transparent and I'm aware of what I'm doing, then the intensity is just right. It's a fine balance between healthy intensity and toxic intensity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and for me, actually, it's interesting the points that you highlight. The main differentiator between healthy and toxic intensity is this ability to trust oneself. When one trusts oneself, when one is not in self-doubt, then there is nothing to prove, right? And combined with intentionality and combined with a connection with a purpose, that's what leads to healthy intensity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in business as well, in personal, in business, I will always set my intentions. I'll think about it. I will set the intention. This is what I want to achieve. How will I achieve it? I need others to buy into this. And so I will just go in very directly. Some people, though, even now, may not be ready for intensity, and they may perceive all intensity as toxic. So it depends who our counterpart is and how you're going to deal with them. And I've dealt with all sorts of people. The ones I find easiest are the ones that are just as direct as I am.
Yes, and you're highlighting a very important point. It's also how is it perceived on the other side, right? So, and being okay with that. So, when we were preparing for our conversation, you mentioned some fabulous example of how intentionality can be set up even in the first conversations while preparing for a meeting in your.
Absolutely. So if an organization, if someone, a buyer, reaches out to Origins Living, I will then ask lots of probing questions. I will set up a quick phone call, video call. What is it that you want from us, from Origins Living? How do you want to work with us? What are the issues you're facing? So I build up a picture of what it is that they want, because once I know what they want, then we can best support them. It could be that we're not aligned, so we're not wasting any time. And I will say to them, I don't think this is going to work for X, Y, and Z. So I think being intense and setting and knowing and being prepared, especially if they're reaching out to you, they need to be very, very straight, but you have to ask the probing questions to get to the bottom of it, because a lot of the times they probably don't even know what they want.
Yes, and that's the first thing, to become actually clear on your own needs as an organization and also as an individual, and then set your intention and then approach another one with curiosity.
Absolutely. And it's about exploring. So when in all business relationships, not just a one-off purchase, you go and buy a bag of oranges, but if you're going to have a business relationship, then both parties have to be clear from the outset. And that's where the intensity for me comes in. I want to be intense because I don't have time to waste, and I need to know, and I ask very direct questions. It can be probably for the other party, my God, she is intense because she's probing, but I'm probing so I know how best to support them.
Yes, and expressing this intention at outset.
Yes. And I'll preface it and say, I'm going to ask you quite a few questions so that I can understand what your business is about and how we can support you. And they need to be clear to me. Over the years of doing business, I can sense whether we're going to work together or not. I can sense if the other side are not being authentic or transparent. I've my gut.
Yeah, and that intentionality is really important, rather than asking someone, let's go for a coffee, right? Without
Yes, I don't have time for coffee.
So yes, so let's be honest, right? What do you need from me, and what do I need from you?
Exactly.
And
Yes,
let's
and
just know it.
if I'm reaching out to someone, then again, I'm still intense, but I will say from the outset, I want to explore opportunities. I want Origins Living to partner with your business. This is what I want. Can we explore it? If they say no, well, then that's fine. But if they want to explore it, at least they know this is my intention. I'm not hiding behind screens and making out I want something different. No, I ask for what I want, and is it possible? Who's the best person? Can we explore?
Yeah.
And if they don't want to, that's fine.
And I know you had obviously many situations in your career, and many challenges. How does for you? When do you notice that you might have in the past shifted more into toxic intensity versus channeling this powerful energy into a healthy version?
If I think back, I was very argumentative. If I could feel the toxicity coming back to me, I would hit back with the toxicity, and I wouldn't stop and pause and think about where is this toxicity coming from my counterpart? Where is it coming from? Because I can feel something. Whereas now I will pause, I will think about it, and I might actually turn it around again in an intense and very direct way. I can sense that something is not sitting right with you. I can feel you're feeling uncomfortable. You're not, can we explore this further? Is there something within our business that doesn't suit? Because they're, in their head, they're not just having a meeting with me. They've got 101 other things going on. And so I can now see when I'm about to go into toxicity, and I breathe. Even if it's like 5 seconds, I will stop, I will breathe, I will center myself and think, right, what do I need to do next?
Yes, that's powerful. So you basically learn to take a pause. And what's normally the sign that you notice in your body when you're like, this is learning to pause?
My chest starts to constrict and my arms start to tense, and I'm feeling I'm under attack. In fact, I felt it when we did the exhibition in Birmingham. I felt the people. There was a couple. I mean, most of them were just amazing, but I felt a couple that came onto the stand, and I was talking to them. I felt this toxicity coming around me, and my default was I want to punch. I want to hit back, but Sofia, just control yourself. And I paused, and I changed the conversation. But without being submissive to them. I was still again very direct. I had one visitor come on the stand, and I said, "Oh, what's caught your attention?" "Oh, we only deal in very high-end products." I said, "Well, that's wonderful, you deal in high-end products." What I really wanted to say at the time is, "Well, what are you doing on our stand then?" But instead I said, okay. So I started asking more questions, and then it got into a conversation. So I think there's a lot of toxicity in business, and it's for many, that toxicity is a defense mechanism, so that they feel that they're not being taken advantage of. Yes. Or some want the upper hand. But if they realize that they're dealing with a healthy intensity, then they soften.
Yes, so that's a very big point. First of all, you have to know yourself. so well that you recognize the signals that
Mm.
your body is sending you, right? Because of course, otherwise our brain tends to go into defense, as you say, right?
Yeah.
And then once you recognize those signals, how do you manage to get into this curiosity that you described? So you
I
recognize
think,
the signal.
yeah, so curiosity, learning it from Adaptaa. Curiosity, I think, is excellent, because curiosity also buys you time, and you understand the person or the organization that you're dealing with. It's easy if they're transparent, but if they're not, they won't give you enough information to be able to take it further. They're trying to keep you on the back foot. So rather than going into attack mode, I go into a curious mode. And I have been known to tell people, do you know what? I don't think we align. I don't think our businesses align. If anything changes in the future, we'll revisit it. But right now, I don't think we can go further. And that's another thing where you have to be able to walk away from a situation, especially if it's really toxic. You have to walk away, and you have to realize that they have their own issues, and it's not a reflection of you. Healthy intensity means being very direct, but being direct from a good place, not being direct to make the other person feel uncomfortable.
Yes, and not from the place of defense or attack, which
Yes.
actually, as
Yeah.
you said,
So mine comes from, so my intensity now in the second latter part of my year, it comes from a healthy curiosity, which is intense, because when you're curious, you naturally ask lots of probing questions.
yes, and that's a powerful tool, because as you said, once you recognize the signals that your body is sending you, right, and previously before you might have gone into counterattack or defensive stance, it means to
Yes.
slow down, to pause, and ask a question. This is
It,
always a great response, because that
it,
builds connection.
yeah, and healthy intensity is being comfortable with yourself, being able to, when you have to have difficult conversations in a healthy intensive way, it has to be from the right place. Healthy intensity is also putting boundaries around the toxicity coming into you, because I can automatically turn into an unhealthy toxicity, and I was like that for many years. But I've grown. You do lots of work on yourself to help you help others.
Yes, and that's where it starts from. First of all, to understand our own reactions and how it shows up in our body, right? So for me, important parts of intensity is self-trust,
Yes.
connection to purpose, and awareness.
Yes, I agree.
If you had to choose one, which one would you choose?
I would say for me, it's the awareness, being aware when I'm about to jump into toxic intensity, and being aware that the other person is being very, very toxic, and I have to protect my energy and not to get dragged into their toxicity.
And with compassion, because as you
Oh,
said, often,
yes. Everything has to be done with compassion, and with a pure heart. I don't believe that in any business nowadays it has to be one over the other. It's all about collaboration.
yes. And actually, we spoke about curiosity and asking questions. So I'm also curious, when this curiosity stays in a healthy way, and when sometimes it goes into almost, intrusive, bombarding questions. And the reason why I'm asking that, because that's what I experienced in myself, you know, or people might have perceived it. Oh my gosh, Tatiana, would you just stop asking the questions right now?
Yes. Yes, I've found a balance. I know where to draw the line to, you know, when you're going a little bit too proby. So when I'm asking these questions, I'm very careful to position them where they're not giving too much away, but they're giving enough for me to understand. So it could be, for example, I could ask a question of one of my customers: what percentage of your sales come from contracts? What percentage comes from retail? You know, another one might say, what's the actual value? But if you're just asking for a percentage, that's more comfortable for the person to answer. But, you know, if you're being really curious, you could ask, well, you know, what is the value of your sales? But that is confidential and they may not want to share that. So I position my questions to get the answers that I need in a way where they're giving me too much information, but I've got enough to know what I'm going to do next.
So again, with awareness, so you're aware of what are the rules in your industry, right? So you're aware of what is confidential and what is not, and you're applying this awareness. So
yes, and I'm still able to get the answers that I need to take it to the next step. But I think there still is toxicity in the bathroom industry, and I think it comes from the older generation. And, you know, business is a dog eat dog world, but it's not. And it's also, I get the toxicity when they wanting a lot of things from us. We want this for free, we want that, and they don't see that there has to be a cost benefit and that we've both got to benefit. And so when I push back in a very healthily intense way, but even though I perceive it as healthy, they are shocked by saying, we want something for free, and I'll say, okay, so if we give you this for free, what will we get in return? And then it's all very wishy-washy, and there's no guarantees. So if there are no guarantees, why are you asking me to make this big investment when you're not willing to invest in us? That is intense. But for me, I see it as healthy because I believe in fair business practice, and the newer generation are getting better at it, where we have mutual respect for each other. Whereas I feel with some in our industry, there isn't mutual respect. It's all I want. Please give. But when you look at it, they're not giving you anything in return. And business, you know, we're not a charity. And again, that's intensity with I'm being transparent. Okay, you want something. What are we going to get back? Because I'm not doing this out of the goodness of my heart, even though I've got a very big heart. I'm running a business, not a charity.
So, and that's being, again, intentional and noticing the elephants in the room. And I see Rita put a comment that clear is kind, and healthy is about being direct.
Yes, it's kind because you're getting straight to the matter. There's no hiding behind niceties and civilities. Just say it. Just be very clear in what it is you want, because they can come back and say, well, I can do this, but I can't do that. And it's open for discussion. But if we're clear at the outset, then at least this is what we want, and we know if we can work towards it or not.
And that builds trust as well, right?
Yes.
So what advice would you give to younger women who are looking to progress in their career?
Oh, that's a really hard one. But I think what I would say is trust yourself. Surround yourself with female mentors. Reach out to them. Now, however you do, reach out to them. If you feel comfortable, reach out to them, because they'll be happy to support you, guide you. I think that's the only thing, because when you're young and you're going through everything, you have to learn. You can't shortcut all the mistakes that we've been through. You can't shortcut experience. So, you know, if I'm saying to a 25-year-old, this is what I would do, she has to do that herself. But I honestly think surround yourself with amazing women.
Yes, and it's about also asking for advice, right? Or
It is
asking for
asking.
help. And that's
Yes.
probably also applies even to women with a lot of experience, right? Because there is
It does. Even now, I'm sure we both reach out for advice because things are changing and adapting, and we're getting used to a new normal. So we're always learning. So we still have to reach out and think, oh, I never thought about that. So it's not just mentoring, but it's a collaboration, cooperation, talking to like-minded people. I think it is amazing, and reaching out. And if you, what I would say, especially maybe not to the younger ones, but the ones sort of in the middle, maybe 30s, 40s, if you see someone struggling, help them. Do not be afraid if they're really great. Do not feel that they're going to take over my job, because if you're comfortable and confident in yourself, no one's going to take your job. And if they take it, they're doing brilliantly. You'll just go on to the next thing.
Yes, and that's again, health intensity is rooted in this self-trust. And yes,
Yes.
and asking for a point of view from outside your direct life is so important, because
Yes.
it's sometimes so difficult for us to see how we might be coming across, right? So I say humans to themselves are what fish are to the sea, right? And if health intensity is about increasing awareness, then it's getting this outside perspective, whether it's from a mentor, from a coach, from a person who has been in the industry for a while.
Yes.
And you said another very important point, that if you communicated something very clearly and very directly and with intention, and the person on the other end is not happy with that you are okay with being disliked, right?
Oh my God, absolutely. I'm okay with being disliked. I do not need to be liked. It's nice, but it's not necessary. It's not necessary. But it's also, I think it's not about being liked. I want to be respected. But if they can't, then I can live with that. I've had situations where I'm thinking, oh my God, these people are just absolutely rude. Let it pass. It means nothing.
Exactly. So and that's cultivating this self-trust and self-belief and self-knowing and awareness of who you are.
Yes.
So we're coming towards the end of our conversation. So where can people find you, Sofia?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Sofia Charalambous. Sofia spelt with an F. They can find me at Origins Living, and I'm always happy to chat. They don't need to invite me for a coffee. They might just all need to say, can I have a few minutes of your time? I need some advice. Can you help me? Can we work together? If you set your intention, you say what you want, then they'll find me.
Yes, so communicating the intention very clearly.
Yes.
And what is one thing you would like to leave our listeners with about how to move to healthy intensity? What's the most important?
I would say trust yourself and be aware, even if it means stopping for a few seconds in a very toxic situation. Just stop. People will have to wait. Even for 10 seconds they can wait. Nothing is life or death apart from an emergency situation.
Exactly. It's intensity feels very urgent sometimes,
Yeah.
and it's this ability to take a breath.
And one thing, one of my wonderful auntie said to me, someone's lack of planning is not your emergency.
Exactly. And don't make the emergency when actually we always have time. It's an illusion.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Sofia. Really, really great to have you
Thank
here.
you.
And
Thank you,
to our
Tatiana. It was
listeners.
wonderful. I hope everyone enjoyed it.